folks, welcome back to part 2 of Project Rat Trailer. Yesterday I was talking about getting this metal blasted because the rust on the chassis was pretty bad. Now obviously that has a cost. I assumed it was going to be a few pounds and I found out to my cost that that was fantasy. The guys at Metal Blast wanted £80 to metal blast this off. They said that using a soft aggregate like bead blasting or vapor blasting, it just wouldn't work because it's thick, heavy angle iron. It needs sand blasting, proper good old-fashioned sharp sand grit, and that would get through it. They then said that if it distorts it, because apparently sand blasting builds up heat at that level of violence, it does actually get hot, and they said that we can't guarantee it won't twist. You know, they're doing a service, but they're saying we might screw it up, and if we do, you have to accept that it'll be your fault. And I'm going to pay them £80 for the privilege. Well, I just haven't got that much to spend. The other side of it is I only paid £40 for the trailer. So the point here is, it's not going to happen. I can't afford to get it sandblasted, and I don't think it's worth it. It's an old £40 trailer. What I do think is worthwhile is just some more hard work. I did make mention yesterday of the Nitro Morse paint stripper. This stuff is brilliant, provided you're not going to paint over it. Now, I've read the instructions, I've looked a bit up on it, and I've done some reading on the net. There is a way to use this. It is an acid, and if you start wire wheeling on the surface to get this paint off, then you will flick it everywhere, and that has a problem because you're atomizing what is effectively a paste version of acid, which isn't very clever. But there is a right way to use it, and of course, like all these things, follow the instructions. If you let it dry properly for about a day or 3, it stops activating. It only remains active in air for up to about 4 hours. So the idea is I'm going to use the paint stripper, I'm going to rip it apart a bit more, get that chassis link off. I'll show you that in a minute because it's a really heavy section of the frame that I can actually lose and forget. I'm going to yield some steel today from a table that I've got in the garden, so that's going to add a little bit of strength. I'm going to be able to weld that in, and the principle is just moving forward really. So some paint strippage today, some prep of the metal I might be using, because once I've put that paint stripper on it, I can't do anything more. I can't paint over that for 3 or 4 days. If you try and paint over it before it's become inert, then it will just stop your new paint from setting properly, and that was all bad. So there we go, that's part 2 underway. Let's get cracking and see what happens. Stick around. Right, turned her upside down. Just this is the suspension unit in question. Whoever's invented this or come up with it, clever idea, and if you're going to carry a motor or an engine or something heavy in this trailer, then that would be a good idea, because it's got an amount of spring, but as you can see, there really isn't much, and all it does is bounce because there's no damping on it at all. You can't have a spring without a damper, so effectively it's just going dang 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 everywhere, and it's ridiculous. Also, it's putting these, which is the mount points, or these are the axles, it's putting them what, about 5 or 6 inches higher than they need to be. So I'm going to bolt this eventually down into there, where it's going to sit effectively lower, and obviously then straight. These wheels won't sit at this daft angle that they're currently sitting at. And the tyres themselves, you only run these at about £8 to £10. They are brand new tyres, and they're going to do all the springing for me. So today's little project, apart from getting stuck in with some paint stripping, is to first of all get this thing off, because I'm not going to mess about with this. It is good 1/2 inch thick solid steel. It's a metre long. That's going to weigh a good 3 or 4 kilos in its own right. So that's coming off. All the metalage and stuff in here that holds it is going to come off too. Get rid of that, and then we can put these wheels to one side, because like the mudguards or fenders that I've just took off as well, they're going to be a separate little part of the project, because I want to get the wheels cleaned up a little bit, get some oxide paint in there once I get the rust off. The bearings seem okay, a bit noisy, might price them up, perhaps it's just the noise they make, but I've got to get another cap for that side anyway, so that's all part of the future. But for today, let's get stuck in, bit of cleaning up and pulling apart. There's so much paint on that thread, I'll probably replace those bolts, as I imagine that the debris on the thread is currently destroying the nut. So new fasteners, always a good idea. proper stiff. Who needs nylocks when you cover them with that much paint? Right. Where's my hitting stick? Right, I reckon they're screwed in. They're either threaded through the axle or some other way screwed in. So I'm going to have to take the axle off to get to the bolts underneath. These bolts can have been fitted with what you can only describe as interference fit. They're in the hole, absolutely tight. They kind of come out, but you've got a lot of rubbish around there where they've been tight in the hole, which is good. It's not going to move around, I guess, but I don't need them. That is heavy, heavy man. Last one. Let's beat that out. That is not coming out. In fact, grab the other side, that's welded in. So we'll leave that one there. My God, that's heavy. And there we are. That is one leaf spring. I'm going to try and find out a way. Now that is muck. Mushrooms. Oops. Loads of mushrooms. Right, that's welded in, so I'm going to leave that for a minute. Don't need to do anything to that. And this. Sorry, crappy camera angles today. This is good. All solid. All this is completely solid and almost unrusted. A lot of this underneath is unrusted. It's only where the water is sat inside it. Well, the wet wood has sat up against the metal inside, so that's not too bad. Just a case of getting the paint off and seeing what it looks like. These are proper welded in. It's only rust. But rust is a pretty good sticker. Two hands. Okay. Again, quite noisy then. And it might just need repacking. There's absolutely no play at all. But the bearings are good. I think they're just dry. And these are solid steel, so they'll just clean up. Right. That's the wheels off. Now that was the spring, and that weighs. That's a good 3 or 4 kilos, that. Solid steel. Handy. It's going to go there in the scrap pile. Do something with that one day. Keep that. Right. Clean up. There's the trailer. There it is. Get some stripper on that. Just can't get some of the paint off. Right, at last we are down to the bare one piece of steel. That is a solid lump. Got the wheels ready to deal with later on, bearings, etc. Blah blah blah. Got the fenders, got the hitch block or the clamp, all that's to deal with later on. Plenty of bits and bobs to refit once time comes for that, but for now we are down to the single solid one lump, nothing else to bolt off it, chassis, and it's a case of getting this stuff underway now. I'd imagine this paint is probably only cheap outdoor paint. I would imagine it's anything special. Right, already in a matter of a couple of seconds, that's cornflaking that. Quite nice. So let's get stuck in, give it a good coat. That. It's done a pretty good job in a matter of no time. Who needs 80 quid metal blasting? Muppets. There's about 10 layers of paint on this. It's been half a dozen colours. This nitro more as much as it is grief. Brilliant. This gets everything off. Right down to the metal. That's just one thin coat of stripper, 10 minutes. Right, now, because filming things, as you know who film things, and those of you who put videos up know how it takes 4 times as long to film something than it is to just get stuck in and do it. I have issues today with time. It's 4 PM. I've got to pick up Penny Pit Stop Camera Girl from work in half an hour, and I got stuck in the end. What I was finding was that this is all the paint that the paint stripper got off, and it kind of did a good job getting lots and lots of it off, but it just wasn't getting down in through the layers. And I just thought I'd have a little experiment with the old lapper wheel. Who doesn't love a lapper? I killed one wheel, completely, and that one's halfway through, so I'll get another one in a minute. And really, to be honest, a lot of it under the paint, a lot of the bobbliness under the paint was simply just rust being held by the paint, and the paint stripper just wouldn't get it off. So just got the lapper of doom out, just been lapping this thing for about the last hour, and actually, if I do say so myself, it's coming on, starting to look something, getting some, there is some decent steel there. Contrary to what I thought, this is decent steel. On the inside, where the wood was sitting, yeah, there's a little bit of wobbliness because the wood, the wet wood held against it, and there are some issues here which I can fix. I just put a little piece of steel in there. Green arm gloves. Right, so what I've got to do now is leave this. I can't do anything else with this now for probably, I reckon, a couple of days. I'm going to wire wheel on the inside, but what I want to do is let all that paint stripper that got soaked all into here, I want to let it dry and cure and stop doing its thing of reacting whatever it does, because it's an acid based stripper. It takes about 48 hours and it just becomes completely inert. So garage looks like a bomb's gone off in it. I look like Stig at the dump. I need a quick shower, get some of this off and get up and pick up Penny pit stop from work. So that's all for today. That's about half stripped, I reckon, so by the end of tomorrow I'll have that all shiny steel, all perfect, and then the paint stripper will have done its thing, will have stopped reacting, and then I can get some primer on it. Okay, so there you go, that's all for now. Thanks for tuning in to Delboy's Garage. Ride safe, and I will see you next time.